So just to remind you, the idea of this first assignment is for you to create a magazine style pull-out poster that focuses on a particular website of your choice, but which explains to your audience what is it that makes that website possible? What are all of the elements behind the scenes of that website that make it possible for your computer to download that website and view it on the screen? And really, the whole point of this first assignment is for you to use the information and knowledge that you've learned through lessons you've done so far with myself and Mr. Butcher about all those different features of the internet. So if you remember last lesson, I suggested that you get started off with, of course, choosing the website, taking a screenshot of the website for your poster, maybe including some brief background information about what the website is all about, what's its purpose, but don't need to go into too much detail about purpose. That comes later. But just a little bit of information about the website. But then the poster is really focusing on the technical aspects of that website. So the fact that it's part of the World Wide Web. So your poster might explain what the World Wide Web is, how it's different to the internet, and your poster might explain what the internet is and give some diagrams to illustrate that. Explain what a web page is and the fact that it's made up of HTML code. You could then talk about how a web browser would take the HTML code of that website you're focusing on and turn it into a website. So the poster is really educating your audience about the actual technical side of the website, the kind of things that most people are unaware of, but which you've been learning in the Creative Digital Media course. So here's an example. Here's a poster I've put together, and I showed you this in the last lesson. It's not great. I could spend a great deal more time getting the design of it right, but you can see, although it focuses on a website called oddy.org, and there's a screenshot down there, the information on the poster actually tells the audience a little bit more about the technical side of this website. So the fact that it's a website that sits on a server, a web server. I found out that this web server has an IP address of that there. I tell the audience that the website uses a DNS server, which will turn the internet address that someone types into the address bar into that IP address, so that my computer can then connect to that web server. I explain what the internet is. It's an international network of computers. Over here I explain the World Wide Web and what that is and why that's different to the internet. In this section here I've got a little bit about web browsers. What are they? What's their role? And the fact that they turn HTML code sent by the web server into the web pages so that we can see those on our screen. And then down here I've explained what a hyperlink is, or what happens when you click on a hyperlink or URL, and the steps that take place from clicking on that hyperlink through to getting the web page onto my computer. Now, if you're still not too sure about any of these aspects, although we have covered them in previous lessons, you have got the videos on the Google Classroom that you can go back and watch and remind yourself of how these different things work. You could also use your own resources on the internet as well. Now, to give you an idea of how to get a grade for this first assignment. So to get a pass, you've got to show that you have just written briefly about the things that make the website possible. So just brief write-ups of what the World Wide Web is, what is the internet, how a hyperlink works, what a web server is, and so on. But link it into the web page that your website you're focusing on. For a merit, you have to just go a little bit further and just try and explain in a little bit more detail about each of those components that you've written about. So not just writing about what the World Wide Web is, but just providing a bit more detail about how it works, providing a bit more detail about the internet, what a domain name system does, how do web servers work. So if we go back to my example, I think I'd probably say that that is probably a merit piece of work, because it kind of does explain each of those features in some detail. For a distinction, you have to go one step further, okay, and show that you have perhaps researched these different elements a little bit more and presented them in a bit more detail. And if possible, actually find out facts that relate to that particular website. So can you find out where that website's web server resides? Where is it physically in the world? Can you find out how many web servers that website might actually use? So a huge website like YouTube actually uses several web servers to serve their websites to the audiences. Can you find out what the actual IP addresses that are being used by those web servers? And can you try and provide more detailed descriptions of the internet, World Wide Web, and so on, and how they all link together?